A metallic absorber plate is the heart and soul of a metallic heat transfer collector. This is where sunlight is converted into heat energy and transferred into the flow tubes. Commercially available radiant floor heating fins may be purchased to function as absorber plates, and these fins can also be homemade. But hold the phone. There is yet another possibility. How about a 20-inch wide, 8-foot long absorber plate with multiple grooves designed to fit a serpentine flow tube? If this sounds difficult or expensive or crazy, it should. But it's not so crazy with the right jig. As a matter of fact, the same 1x6 boards used to fabricate the tube bending jig can be recycled to build the absorber plate jig. Once the absorber plate jig, or pounding jig, is up and running, a 20-inch by 8-foot absorber plate can be pressed out every 10 minutes. So, let's build a 4-foot long pounding jig from 8 1x6 planks, 20.15 inches long. Since aluminum flashing is 20 inches wide, the extra 0.15 inches provides a little leg room. Now, the pre-cut pounding jig boards can be screwed into a scrap wood platform with a 3/8 inch space between them. Use 3/8 inch steel pounding rods to space the boards in the right position. So far, so good, but we still need more supports to prevent the aluminum from sliding sideways. But not to worry, this problem can easily be remedied with the addition of side supports. Congratulations! Now we can roll a 20-inch wide sheet of aluminum onto the bending jig platform. The sheet should be 9 foot long for an 8-foot long collector. Be sure to drop all the rods into the side slot guides before pounding the first rod. After the first rod is down, position the plywood and kneel on it. Now, pound the second rod into position. Slide the plywood forward and continue until all the rods are pounded down. Once the first 4-foot long absorber plate section is bent, the rods are removed. Pull out the bent aluminum and slide it across the jig until the last bend lines up with the first slot in the jig. Now, hold the last bend in the first slot with a steel rod and continue pounding bends into the aluminum until the absorber plate of the desired length is completed. This absorber plate is only 40 inches long, but it could be 40 feet long. Just remember, the length of the absorber plate can always be adjusted after it's made. Okay, we're all ready to make our absorber plates from a sheet of aluminum. Remember, the absorber plate converts sunlight into heat, and then that heat is transferred into flow tubes like this. Now, the trick is how are we going to make these grooves in the aluminum? Well, that's what this jig is all about. It's used to position the grooves at a specific location. Now what I'm doing is I'm using 1x6 lumber with a notch every 6 inches. It's a very simple thing to make, 1x6 lumber, and it's just screwed into 2x4s. But one thing that I want to point out is that on the edge of this, I sometimes call it the pounding jig because we're going to be pounding grooves into the aluminum. On the edge of the pounding jig, we have a little support for our steel rods. Steel rods will just slide right into this groove because without that, the sheet of aluminum will kind of slide from one side to the other, but these edge supports hold it in place. Okay, so we're all ready with our pounding jig. We'll put our first steel rod in place. Now we can start pounding a little notching here. Now we want to hold that flap down, so we really should use a nice big piece of plywood to hold it in place, and then continue our pounding. Now if we need to pound it a little deeper, we can use a square steel rod. Alrighty. Now, just finish doing this a little bit. Well, I really should have a larger piece of plywood. I don't have one with me today. It'll make it a little easier. Okay, so we got our first one in. Okay. So you'd hold that in place like this. I'm putting some weight on with my knee, and pound the next one. Okay. And if you want to pound it a little deeper, you put the support on it like that. Okay. Alright, now this might seem a little crude. I'm doing this kind of fast, and we don't have all the supports and things we need, but I just want to give you the basic idea of what's involved with making an absorber plate. Okay. So this is our... Oh boy. See, I got this side support in a little too tight. Okay, anyway, so our basic absorber plate would look something like this. To support the flow tubes and increase collector efficiency, insulate the bottoms of the absorber plates before installing them inside the collector frame. The copper flow tube supports the absorber plate, and the collector supports hold the flow tube. For more information about this metallic heat exchange system, see Homemade Serpentine Collector.